Tennessee This Week from WATE's 6 on Your Side starts now.
Hello and welcome to Tennessee This Week. I'm Lori Tucker. Glad you're with us. You know, when you think of tourism here in East Tennessee, you think about the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. A local, state, and federal partnership is continuing to keep the park open despite the government shutdown, at least for now. As we reported 2 Fridays ago, various governments and groups are shelling out nearly $62,000 a day to ensure the park is fully operational. On Wednesday, we asked Sevier County how long it can continue helping to keep the park open. A spokesperson told us at that moment, an agreement currently only ensures the park will remain open through October 19th. But that spokesperson adds Sevier County and partner agencies, including now Blount County, are committed to working together to keep the park open. Hopefully, they say, through the end of the month. Well, joining us now, Courtney Piper, Craig Griffith, and Michael Covington. As a reminder, everyone, this is such a fluid situation. We are taping this week's show on a Friday. So welcome to all of you.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
As of now, as the shutdown continues, how unusual is it for counties around an entity like the Smoky Mountains to gather their resources to keep it going? This is a lot of money.
Well, it's their bread and butter.
Yeah, it is.
If the park no longer draws the millions of people it does every year, that leads to unemployment, that leads to bankruptcies in various small businesses. It's a nightmare for them. So I salute them for working together like this to come up with the money to keep the park open for as long as they can. And I think there's a lesson there. I think, people need to think that the money that used to come from the federal government is not as dependable as it used to be. That they need to think of alternative ways to make sure that the important things in their communities remain open or continue to be funded. These local governments aren't going to take over the national park, but they are going to have to understand that perhaps they will have to contribute more to its upkeep and to its daily operations than they have in the past.
Keeping it open is key to so many people and for so many reasons.
This is a highly uncommon arrangement, I would venture to guess. But tourism is the bread and butter of these counties. All the counties that touch the Great Smoky Mountains National Park depend on it to be open for their local revenues. And this is peak season for the Great Smoky Mountains to be open. In a couple of weeks, or maybe even next week, we'll have peak season or peak color for the fall leaves. And the Great Smoky Mountains need to be open if Sevier and Cott County and Blount County want to see that those sales tax revenues come in. So, kudos to those local governments for figuring out a way and a structure to make this work. It is a short-term deal. Lori, I think you said this is a 7-day agreement. They can go up to 30 days, but every 7 days they've got to look at it again. So what this is showing us is that we will need more options for local control.
It's a lot of money, and they were saying as well, maybe up to 10 days, but it's not sustainable,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
Michael, what do you think?
I am amazed at the resilience of communities. In this case, the whole state relies on the Great Smokies National Park. The fact that they have come together so quickly to put a plan together to make sure, right down to the smallest detail, the monies for 2 days from now go in the bank today. That means they are not going to allow this project, this park, to be idle, but it is not sustainable. So the question then becomes, who blinks first in Washington? And someone needs to blink quickly.
On Wednesday, we heard from Governor Lee while he was out here in East Tennessee. Let's listen to what he had to say about this.
We understand how important the Great Smoky Mountains National Park is, not only to Tennessee, but really to the country. This is the most visited park in America, and we want to make sure it's open, especially during the fall when people are here because of the leaves and because of the time of year.
The leaves have also been...
Isn't that what Courtney just said, pretty much word for word?
It is.
I know.
It is.
My
Well, Courtney's
goodness.
now working for the governor. We can ask
That
that
would be
right
a
now.
story in and of itself. How harmful would it be for the park to cease full operations? I know we've talked about how important the Smokies are to the local economy, but just for people visiting here and there, even locals visiting, that makes a big impact as well. When you hear, at first when we heard Cades Cove Loop Road is closed, that makes a big impact on your decision on whether to go.
Well, people all year round have made their plans to come to the Smokies to see them during peak fall leaf season. So, obviously they'll be very disappointed, and it will. But I'm more concerned about, the small operations, the mom and pop stores, the small souvenir stands and things like that, who can't withstand, a week, 2, or a month with no revenue. So that's where my main concern, and I think that most of the local governments probably feel that same way too, that's where their real emphasis is. And while it's not sustainable, you have to define your priorities. Maybe there's a way you can do this and reorient your priorities and not do something else, not pave as many miles of roads in your community to keep the park open, because it helps everyone. So I think, yes, over a year it's not sustainable, but I think over the lifetime of this shutdown, which could be long, they need to come up with a plan to keep it open. And I think I'm wrong. I don't know. Didn't they do the same thing in the last government shutdown? Wasn't there a plan that kept it open for a couple of days?
Yes, and
so they had some experience in doing this.
And didn't that one last 35 days?
35.
Yeah, something like that. So
How long can we go before there's just a huge meltdown?
Well, whenever we're facing a government shutdown, it is common for folks in East Tennessee to say something to the effect of, who cares, shut the federal government down, it's not working for us anyway. And it's not until what the federal government does is at your front door do you realize that the federal government actually plays a role in your life. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is one of those examples. If you were counting on going there with your family to visit, to look at the fall colors, to do something over a fall break, well, now you kind of realize why it's important to have the federal government open.
yeah, and of course all the people in Oak Ridge that are funded through federal contracts. And the processes in Oak Ridge just can't be, we're going to turn that off tomorrow and start it, 2 weeks from now. There are processes that require constant attention.
You wanted to add?
I don't mean to be critical of the federal government, but once again, the federal government's not really coming through to help Americans. I mean, the 15th is going to come around, and military families, a lot of them are going to be without a paycheck. I understand that these issues that have the government closed are serious, but our legislators need to be working around the clock. They shouldn't be at home. They should be burning the midnight oil and finding a way to make the shutdown go away.
All right, you brought that up, and we got this breaking news earlier, again on Friday, that the Trump administration has begun laying off federal workers as of Friday. So it's starting, the process is happening.
This is a posturing. This is a posturing that is hurting people. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, this is not a negotiation technique. This is a slash and burn mentality to ending a government shutdown. If you're not going to do what we want and let us increase healthcare costs for all Americans, then we're just going to start firing people. It's not serious. It is meant to intimidate, and that's not how the United States of America governs.
How long do you think this could last?
35 plus days.
Well, yeah, that's all we have to go on, yes?
The more and more it gets at Americans' front door, the more and more Republicans are going to have to come back to Washington, D.C., and they're going to have to negotiate. Military families will not have a paycheck. People's health insurance premiums will go up. You will not be able to enjoy amenities like the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Our national security will be at risk because of our federal missions won't be able to be fully and completely staffed. So there's a lot at risk, but it only comes more clear to the American public the longer and longer we go through the shutdown.
And there are more and more questions, and a grandmother named Yvonne just emailed me yesterday and said, can you explain why the president still gets paid and his staff still get paid, but yet other government workers do not? My grandson wants to know, and we had to explain, well, the Constitution says. Let's delve into that a little bit more, because people are asking questions wondering why.
Those are legitimate questions.
Furloughs started on day one of this administration, so it should come as no surprise. This is a further implementation of their plan to reduce the size of the federal government. Right now, with the Republicans in the majority in the House and in control of the Senate, but they don't have control of the Senate because they don't have a 60-vote margin to override vetoes. So really, if you're the minority party, This is the only mechanism you have to have any sort of bipartisanship or any sort of negotiation on the issues that are important to you. And I just remember what John McCain, the late senator from Arizona, would say. We lived often under the tyranny of the majority. And I would say that that's what's happening now. There's very little bipartisan negotiation going on. So that you can squabble about the details of each party's position, but as it comes to the healthcare things, it's interesting to me that the Democrats, it's ironic, are fighting for a position that's benefiting mainly the red state constituents. These Medicaid subsidies mainly went to the red states. Speaker Johnson, his district in Louisiana has one of the highest percentage of constituents who are on the Medicaid plans, exchange plans. So it's ironic that the Democrats are working on a position that's going to benefit those in the red states less than in the blue states. So politics are so upside down now, it's hard to tell how long this will last.
It's going to benefit people in red states, and the people who receive those services in those red states will continue to vote for Republicans who continue to not advocate for them. So, this is where we get into this conversation about where do Democrats have a winning message and what do they fight for, when Democrats continue to fight for things that overly benefit folks in red states that then do not give the Democratic Party the credit they deserve for advocating for their needs.
We'll leave it at that. Don't go anywhere, everyone. We're going to bring back our panel of pundits back in to talk about other topics in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. Early voting in the city of Knoxville general election begins coming up on Wednesday. As of this week, the Knox County Election Commission says there are more than 98,000 active registered voters who are eligible to vote in this election. But will they? These voters will select 5 city council members, affecting really the direction the city takes over the next 4 years. Voters will also have the option to vote yes or no on Mayor India Kincannon's proposed half-point sales tax increase. Let's go ahead and bring back our panel of pundits. This question is simple. Do you think the sales tax increase will pass?
I'm doubtful. To begin with, nobody really wants to vote for a tax on themselves unless there's an overwhelming need, unless there's a critical, you have to hire new police officers or there's been some critical emergency in your city. So it's an uphill battle. There are forces out working on both sides of the issue. And there will be more people vote in this election than one would think, because you have the council election combined with the sales tax referendum. So I think that we had less than 10,000 people in the primary. We could have 15 to 20,000 people vote in this general election.
Oh, you think it's going to double in the general election?
Well, it depends on how the intensity of the sales tax referendum comes out. Hopeful. Maybe it will only be 10,000 people. Who knows? People don't really seem to vote that much in city elections anymore, which is why they should be combined with all the other elections instead of standing on their own. So I don't think that it's going to, I'm doubtful it's an uphill battle. We'll have to see how things go.
Courtney, what about you?
I'm hopeful it will pass, and I think what we were just talking about with the Great Smoky Mountains National Park is a reason why it should pass. We need more local control of dollars that support our infrastructure. So one of the reasons why Sevier County and Blount County are able to find those local dollars is because they have maxed out their local sales tax option at 2.75%. Knox County, Knoxville has not done that yet. So when we do that, we will be in line with our neighbors in Anderson, Blount, Sevier, Jefferson, Granger County, and we will have more local dollars that we can use on local projects. And we're going to need that. We're going to have to rely less and less on the federal government. So this gives us more local control where we can have more parks, more sidewalks, more tennis courts, more community facilities, better fire halls, and that sort of thing that we ultimately control.
All right, I want to move on to the mayor's vision for the future of Chilhowie Park. As we know, it did not come to fruition. I want to direct this question to Michael. Is this telling of her push for a sales tax increase? Is this going to hurt her?
The abject failure of the rollout of this Chilhowie project, I think doomed the sales tax issue, because I think voters, the few voters that will vote in this election, I think those voters at this point are questioning the trust that they have in the mayor and her administration and the utilization of this money that she wants to raise. When you say, oh, we guarantee X number of dollars for affordable housing, the assumption is that voters are all in for devoting more tax dollars to affordable housing. And I think the answer to that is no. If you're leading with that as a benefit, that's just as bad as saying selling that land to Chilhowie Park will benefit youth in East Knoxville. Obviously, that wasn't believed. It wasn't believable. And this, too, this sales tax where all this money is going to be raised and we're going to entrust that to the mayor, I don't think so. I don't think voters are going to entrust this sitting mayor with $50 million to do anything with.
Well,
What
it
do
will
you all
not be
think?
just hers because it will be, she's got one more year left in office, so this will also be something that the next mayor and the next city council can make sure is transparent and accountable. So it won't just be with the Kincannon administration, it will be for the next city council to ultimately decide on through the budgetary process where those extra funds go.
How did it go so wrong?
The Chilhowie Park?
Yeah, what were the mistakes that were made in the mayor's office?
Well,
What should
I'm
she have
sure.
done?
I'm sure in the hindsight, you know, that there were things that she should have done differently. But I think, and I'm not speaking for the administration. This is my point of view. Is that they felt that the good things that Emerald Youth Foundation had done for the community in Lonsdale, and through the history of that organization in helping inner city youths achieve, success in their lives, I think they were counting on that winning the day. And they underestimated the impact of Chilhowie Park selling that land to the people of East Knoxville, that Chilhowie Park was more important to them than they ever envisioned. So they didn't do a good job of rolling it out, and they took for granted that it was going to be a wonderful project and everybody would love it, instead of working from the bottom up and developing a support for it on the community and neighborhood level.
Yeah, some would say they didn't do their homework.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't, and they weren't forthcoming. They talked, Courtney has reminded us several times, they had 17 meetings. Those meetings were sham meetings. They weren't talking about Chilhowie Park. They had 500 people they talked with. The first 5 people on the list, 3 of them said, no idea why my name is on this list. I never went along with this. I never even knew about this. So it was fraught with problems from the very beginning. And the attempt to misrepresent some of the intentions, I think, doomed it once people started to realize you're not being transparent. You're not telling us everything.
The opposition for the Chilhowie Park proposal seemed to be very well organized and completely wild.
And that was a misnomer. That was a misnomer. The objection to Chilhowie Park must have had 6 different reasonings. My reasoning was that it was a bad deal. Exclusively. I don't care what they put at Chilhowie Park. The deal was a bad deal. The others that were against it for different reasons. So no, it was not a concerted effort. It's described as wild and aggressive. No, it was 6 different, very concerted efforts to go against a deal that was bad from day one.
It was organized and aggressive because but you did not see that same sort of organization and aggressiveness coming from the folks who wanted it. You actually saw it after that vote was made to take it off the agenda. Folks that were for it were going, well, now what are we going to do? I really wanted this. What about our kids? And all this other sort of stuff. And I was thinking, where were those voices during this whole conversation? Because we heard a lot from the opposition. We heard very little from the folks who wanted this.
Really, no one took the time to explain step by step.
And I didn't think it was organized. I thought it was spontaneous. As soon as that it went on the council agenda to be voted on the first time, and they had to delay it because of neighborhood reaction to it. That was opposition that developed over 4 or 5 days. You know, it wasn't a.
You can organize in 4 or 5 days.
Well, yeah, it's not like that. You had a whole bunch of people that were signing up to vote against it. It was just it was then, as happens in so many public instances. It was only then when it got on the council agenda that people focused on it.
Well,
and
they
when
saw
people started focusing on it, they found problems that they had with the plan, and there was no reaction to those other than trying to organize some public meetings and to get out some letters to the editor to try
Okay,
to.
let me ask you this.
So where was all of this community buy-in that Emerald and the mayor's office was saying existed? Where was the buy-in? Because obviously their version of buy-in is contradicting the appeal that came out of the council meeting when people that weren't wearing green shirts showed up in big numbers. Mm-hmm. So it's problematic the way they went about it.
Here's the next question I have. How will this whole situation about Chilhowie Park influence the District 6 race? Lots of eyes are on that race.
Well, we'll see. So I don't think we're going to get to 20,000 total voters in this.
Be optimistic.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, there was 10,000 in the primary. I don't think that's going to double in the general. I don't care what's on the ballot. So I think we're looking at a smaller voter turnout. But this question of how did the community, that district, feel about Chilhowie Park, I think you'll see that manifest itself in whomever they select for that district representative seat. We'll really get to see was the immediate community in favor of that, or were they really actually opposed to it?
I think it's interesting too, because this is the first election that we're going to have where the representatives are actually elected from the district. In previous elections, the district races in the general election were citywide. Now they're only district-wide. So this issue may have more breadth in that district than ordinarily, because if it was diluted across the city, it might not be as important. But to the people in the 6th district, this Chilhowie Park issue might be something that will sway their opinion. I'm not exactly sure where the two people were that are running in that. Were they for or against the Chilhowie Park proposal? I don't know whether it's going to be one issue that one candidate will be able to run on. So because of the change in the format, it may be more significant than in previous years.
All right, much more to come on Tennessee This Week. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. On Wednesday, one of 3 Tennessee lawmakers who drew national attention in 2023 when Republicans in the state legislature moved to expel them following a gun control protest, announced he was running for Congress. We're talking about Democrat State Representative Justin Pearson. Now let's bring back our panel of pundits to talk about this. First, are any of you surprised?
No, I think that was the next logical step for many of these people that were involved in that. But Steve Cohen is an entrenched incumbent in Shelby County. It'll be, the whole thing. You have to knock out the champ if you're running against someone who's in office. So, and I don't know if Justin has the fundraising acumen or the organization that could knock out the champ in Steve Cohen. So, uphill battle for him as well.
Courtney, what about you? What about his name recognition? Does he have enough of that? Is being part of the Tennessee 3 enough?
His name recognition increased with the Tennessee 3, but I think he reached the pinnacle prior to announcing that he was running for this congressional race. So we'll see how all this plays out. I am a big advocate for no elected official deserves a free lunch, and competition in primaries and in general are a good thing because it allows you more communication with your voters. So we'll see how this plays out. It could be a new day for West Tennessee.
Could be very interesting. Michael, what about you?
The day the 3 Tennessee hucksters took over the State House, those 3 hucksters established a fundraising arm for themselves. I have tried to follow the money. I think I know where Representative Johnson's money has gone, and I think on Election Day in a few weeks, we'll see. I think there will be a surprise in that District 6 race, and I think I'll know why. Justin, whichever one of the Justin hucksters is running for Congress, that's where he's using the money that he raised. When he went to the White House and met with Biden and Harris, and they flew back and they raised money all the way there and all the way back, that money had to go somewhere. I think I know where Representative Johnson's money is going. We obviously know where Justin's money is going. The other Justin is still waiting to decide how he's going to spend his riches from that hucksterish expression in the State House last year.
I would end on that, but we have just a few seconds. Would anyone like to weigh in before we close out this very interesting show today?
Well, it's an interesting position on where the money is going in the District 6 race. So I'd like to see election commission documents on where the money is coming from. I think I'll look forward to seeing that.
I think we'll be checking.
In weeks to come.
All right, everyone, thanks for being with us, and thank you for joining us. Have a good day.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Nexstar Broadcasting.